Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Geeky Pod with Manas. So in today's episode also we have Dr. Basuraj Bhowmik with us. This is the second part of the discussion that we started earlier last week. So in this episode we have gone further into how Ph.D. Can be done, how different aspects of Ph.D. and paper publications can be done. We have also discussed majorly how digital devices like mobile, smartphones and tablets are impacting children at very nascent age and how to keep children away from. We have discussed about films. We have discussed about books that one should read if they want to read, and many more things. So please join me in this episode. Like, share, and subscribe to this episode and the channel if you like the content. Thank you. From my own experience, right? So I got to know about paper publications and the entire process when I was in second year of my engineering. So, and I felt that a lot of people right now also with whom I interact with, who are in their bachelor's degree, they don't know what is paper publication. So do you think there is a lack of awareness or knowledge sharing among bachelor's degree holders or engineers who are pursuing their degrees, and how it can be improved?
That is actually a good concern that you have raised because as I see that you were aware even in your second year of your bachelor's. I wasn't aware until I joined my PhD. I didn't even know what a paper was.
Hey, you must be kidding me.
No, trust me on that. I didn't know what a paper was, and I'm being very honest here. I know people write something and send something. That was the best that I knew. But what I feel is there might be a lot of students who are like me, who are still like me, that they are not aware of paper writing and the entire process around it, or what are the benefits. So that concern remains, but it primarily reflects on the institution that you are a part of. If the institution is already a research dominant institution, then it is good that you definitely will know what a paper is. However, if the institution focuses more on on you getting placements and then you reflecting it well on the institution's profile, then there might be a slight chance that you were not aware of the research side of career. So it all again boils down to the professors, how they are going to train the students and how they are going to make aware of the opportunities that lie beyond bachelors. So in that way, yes, the awareness should be increased among the bachelor students.
Okay. So now that we have started the topic of how students in their bachelor's degree can be educated about opportunities after they complete their degree. So what are the different scopes available once one student completes their bachelor's degree in terms of higher education?
For us, the most or the highest education that we can have is a PhD. In terms of higher education, you can either go for an MBA or an MTech. And that can be the possible two options for any engineer. If you are thinking of continuing your career in the industry, then I'll definitely suggest you go for an MBA. The pay is more. That is the most important thing. The pay is more. Okay. And the industrial experience actually counts good. And you are directly helping some consumers get some benefit done. You are directly working with people. However, if you're planning on doing an MTech, there might be a requirement of doing a PhD. I'm not saying it always is, but if you do an MTech and you don't have a PhD, you can never apply for a faculty position, at least in the eminent institutes. In that way, doing an MTech and doing a PhD comes hand in hand. They are the two sides of the same coin. And after PhD, we don't actually have an academic degree beyond this. If you do a postdoc, it counts as a work experience. So postdoc is basically a work experience. It's a postdoctoral experience or a postdoctoral fellowship that you have. So if it happens that you are not completing your PhD after your MTech, you won't be allowed for a faculty position in any of the eminent institutes. In fact, the government of India is recently thinking about removing the MTech curriculum altogether. And that is because the government is actually running losses because they are paying the MTech students. And what happens, most of the MTech students get their MTech degrees and then they move to the foreign universities for getting a PhD. However, if they only have a direct PhD program just after B.Tech, In the first year, they can actually pay those students some money so that they can do the MTech coursework. And then they are here inside the country. So that is a homegrown thing. It is an indigenous thing. It is an indigenous
Mm-hmm.
Indian PhD that I actually have. So that way, the government is thinking of scrapping the entire master's program. Might happen in 10 years. Who knows? We'll have to see.
Yes, totally. Yeah. So now that you have completed your PhD and you definitely have done hard work, as you mentioned already. So, do you think there is a need for change in the curriculum in engineering, in various streams of engineering, in terms of master's or bachelor's degree, or maybe I don't know about PhD? You can say about it.
Um, yeah, the thing is, again, it all boils down to the curriculum that has been followed since the last 10 years or 20 years.
Hmm.
We cannot have our old age practices repeated over the next 5 or 6 years because they are outdated.
Mhm.
The things have evolved. Let's say building has evolved, or in fact, machine learning was not that much popular in the 1950s. Okay,
Hmm.
but if you are
Yes.
still trying to have a 1950s syllabus in the 2000s, then actually it makes no sense. So, to give you an example, AI and ML are the
Hmm.
hot shots of the areas, all the areas now. Even we have
Yes.
AI and ML in civil engineering. I use AI and ML on a daily basis for my coding activities in civil engineering. If we don't have a change in that curriculum or the mindset, then there is no way that our country can evolve or the bachelor's or master's students will be able to be at par with the international students.
Mhm.
So, yes, there is a need to revise the curriculum, and we effectively do it in all the IITs. We do it every semester. Before the start of the next semester, we actually plot and plan our courses, what we are trying to float, and what are the new advancements in the area, and then we float it accordingly. And we see a lot of students who are coming up. Especially IIT Madras is known for floating their online courses. I think even IIT Kanpur is doing that. IIT BHU in particular will be starting that in the next semester. So fingers crossed for it.
Okay, and also, I'm not sure if that is applicable here. Government has brought in national education policy, so I'm not sure whether that is applicable for higher studies as well. So whether that is going to impact like any information that you have.
Yes. So the NEP 2020 was instrumental in structuring the entire curriculum of all the engineering topics and maybe even the science ones as well. So what we actually had through NEP was the inclusion of human values, ethics, and then the rules in publication or the ethics in journal publication, the non-technical side of things.
Hmm.
What NEP did was to integrate the non-technical and the technical side of things in such a beautiful and balanced way that if all of the institutes comply to those practices, we will be at par with any of the top foreign universities. And that has been a great success story for a lot of the universities, and the centrally funded institutes are all following NEP. And we are looking at the future iterations of NEP, and we have included them in our syllabus as well.
Okay, and what I felt, or I have passed, and like both of us have passed our bachelor's. It's been almost 7+ years now. So what I
Oh,
feel
yes.
is the education in those colleges, or maybe in current colleges also, is more theoretical, less practical. So, and that creates the lack of imagination among students because they only mug all the notes and
Yeah.
everything and doesn't know how to implement it. So that's a gap. So how do you think that can be solved if we are to look for a change?
Yeah. In fact, I am trying to solve that gap as well because I believe that after 4 years of your bachelor's, you should at least be industry ready, if
Mhm.
not ready for your research work. You should at least be industrially ready so that you can be picked up by the industry. So what we have effectively done is that I feel that it is done in most of the IITs. Um, is that we are trying to bring a lot of the numerical aspects to
Mhm.
the entire curriculum. So whatever courses I teach, from my point of view, I try to make the questions in such a way that there are no derivations asked, there are no theoretical questions asked. If you have a 100 marks paper question and if you have 10 questions, all 10 of them will be numericals. All 10
Okay.
of them will challenge you in your very basic concepts. And the beautiful part of that is you have an open book exam. I try to
That's
set an open book exam. So that is the most challenging aspect to any of the teachers, because if you have an open book exam and the answers are there in the book itself, there is no point of doing that. So I had this tradition followed from IIT Guwahati, so I try to incorporate here as well. And most of the IITs follow that rule. You can bring any notebooks. You can. Some of the IITs even allow the laptops. Okay,
uh,
you can bring any notebooks. You can bring any of the books. You can bring the entire library with you. I think ISC allows group discussion within 2 hours or within 3 hours. You have to do whatever you can. So they allow group discussion as well, and still you see the maximum marks was 70 or something. So that is kind of challenging. The numerical aspect, we are trying to integrate it in every way possible so that the students are industrially ready and they can actually relate to whatever is happening on the ground. And that is what an engineer must be. We must not only know the theory behind it, we must also know how to apply.
yes, practical application also. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great point. If all colleges start implementing this open book exam, then
Yes.
everyone will be industry ready. Yes, you're right.
Yes.
Uh, so, in your entire career so far, did you get any setback, and which became an advantage at later stage in your career?
Um, well, truth be told, touch wood, I don't have any setback as of now. But there was one thing which I faced. It was the lack of funding opportunities during my postdoc. I tried to complete my first postdoc and then I tried to have another one in my area. And that was circumstantial because the COVID hit that time. So all the research was diverted towards biomedical application and bioscience and those things. People actually weren't caring about civil engineering. So the amount of funding which was given to civil engineering for some aspects was quite less. And that is why I feel that you might have missed out on something. And that was just due to COVID.
Okay. Now that you mentioned that some postdoc opportunity also you tried for, right? So if you can explain like what is that opportunity? Like postdoc means what exactly you are doing there? When you say postdoc
Okay.
fellowship, what happens? Like what is that thing exactly?
So postdoc is basically your postdoctoral fellowship, which you complete or which you start rather after your PhD is completed. So once your doctoral studies are over, you get conferred with a PhD degree, then you can go for a postdoctoral fellowship. So typically what happens is that I'll first tell you about what a postdoc is. So
Mhm.
typically what happens is that in the postdoc, you are encouraged to not only follow your research activities, but also sometimes you might be given an opportunity to teach a few of the students. And that depends
Mhm.
upon your supervisor or your collaboration with someone else. And you might get some side payment for that. The second part is it is always beneficial to change your PhD research topic once you go for a postdoc. I'll give you one simple example. I worked in civil engineering, structural engineering for my
Mhm.
PhD. My postdoc was in mechanical engineering. It
Okay.
was because my methods were so interdisciplinary that signal processing could be used in civil engineering or electrical engineering, and it basically evolves out of electronics engineering, right? So that way, I feel that if you are changing your entire domain from your PhD to your postdoc, it becomes very beneficial. That means that you are not only expert in your own area from your PhD, you are not afraid to explore uncharted waters in
Hmm.
your postdoc, and that shows that you are an independent researcher as well.
Okay. Okay. Understood. So, do you like reading, like in general? Like,
Yeah.
it can be any kind of reading, not only core subjects.
Okay.
So, if you,
Yes, I do.
uh,
Yes, I do. I actually had a tendency of reading a lot of books when I was growing up, and then this evil thing came up in our lives. Okay.
yes.
So right now I'm looking for some books which are actually helpful in growing up and then, having a correct mindset. So we are all familiar with Atomic Habits, right?
Mhm.
Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's a wonderful book. It's a wonderful book. Um, I have read that, and I will be starting with the next one, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, I guess.
Yes.
And there is a beautiful Japanese book, Ikigai, by Hector Garcia.
Yes.
So that actually gives a lot of perspective on your life and how your life should be led. So I think I'll be trying to complete the books maybe this couple of months. I'll try to see how it goes.
Okay, so let's say if you are to suggest someone like go and read these books, so which will be those three books?
Oh, I'll
It can
suggest these three books that I am actually reading, but
no, it can
um,
be any
I,
discipline. It can be storybook as well. Yeah,
it can be storybooks. Then good. We are all in love with Harry Potter. Please go read the Harry Potter series. It
totally.
actually expands your entire institution and your entire belief about this world and gives you something to rely on. I'm a big Harry Potter fan, and English is so nice. The English is very, very nice. Atomic Habits, on the other hand, is quite a powerful book. You can go through that as well. I believe that everyone should read that book. And there is one another book which actually tickled my fancy. That was The Alchemist. I believe
Mm,
some of us have gone through that as well. So I like
yes.
the fiction kind of stuff. I like that. So The Alchemist is also a great.
Okay. So, do you watch movies as well? Like, are you a big movie buff or
Yeah.
how it is?
Yes, I try to watch a lot of movies. I have my Netflix subscription, which is a really good deal. Sometimes I get pulled into Bollywood movies, courtesy my wife. And yes, I like watching them as well.
So, what will be those three movies? It can be US movies or Indian movies also that you
Oh,
feel is
goodness.
gives information or some idea about history or maybe top three movies that you will
Oh my
suggest.
God, that's the Hollywood produces such beautiful movies that I cannot, actually give you the top three movies that you can have. But I'll suggest please go and watch The Shawshank Redemption. That is
Yes,
the best, one of the best movies that I can suggest you. Um,
Lord of the
what
Rings
else?
maybe.
Lord of the Rings. Well, only if you are there for this one. You are happy with the fiction,
Uh,
and then you have to go through Hobbit as well, the
uh,
Hobbit journey as well.
six movies.
So six movies in total. If you are patient enough, then you should go for Lord of the Rings. I won't suggest Star Wars because the recent movies that really I didn't like those movies, the Star Wars. But I was a big Star Wars fan growing up. What else? If you like action, then possibly the Bourne series, but maybe there is something more out there, better out there. I'm not
Uh-huh.
recalling. However, I can suggest you some Bollywood movies, and it
Okay.
is coming from a person who watches a lot less amount of Bollywood movies. Okay, so the top three movies, Bollywood movies for me would be Three Idiots. Okay,
Yes.
Three Idiots should be a good watch. If you are a romanticizer and if you are looking for a love those side of things, then you should watch Ye Jawani Hai Diwani. That is
Yes.
actually a beautiful movie. And then if you are looking for friendship and what life is about, Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. So that
Great,
is
great
another
choices
one.
there.
Yeah, that is another one which I suggest. The last Bollywood movie which I watched perhaps a week ago was Pathan. That was SRK's
Ah,
comeback. So we
yes.
watched that. My wife and I watched that. And the one movie which actually excited me was Andhadhun.
Andhadhun, yes.
Andhadhun's
Ayushman.
ending was like Inception. Yeah, Inception. Yes,
Yes.
Inception is a good movie. Yes. Andhadhun's ending was like Inception. You're still not sure what happens, and no spoilers here. But
Yes.
if you haven't watched it, please go and watch it. Andhadhun was an excellent movie.
Great choices. Your choices and my choices are matching exactly.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So now coming back to our education sector, during COVID, we have seen a lot of e-learning apps coming up in terms of education and online education mostly. So do you think the future is of e-learning, like in every sphere of education from pre-LKG to primary to higher studies till postdoc?
um, Both yes and no. I'll tell you why the no side. of things. Why? Because you cannot have, toddlers and kids stuck onto a screen for maybe 8 to 10 hours a day. You cannot have that. That will have a bad impact on their outlook, and then they won't be able to socialize and those things. However, I'll say yes, because due to COVID, since there has been a rise in a lot of online platforms, and as we are doing right now as well, I believe that the learning should not be confined only to the physical boundaries of maybe countries or maybe states. The learning should be free for all, and it should be available to everyone who is interested in working towards it. I recently learned that there is a possibility of getting an online MBA as well, although I'm
Yes.
not sure
Why
how
upgrade?
much. Oh, okay, whatever. Yeah, but I keep on getting emails from some IIMs. I don't know how they got my email ID. So they suggest me to get an online MBA program and those things. So now I understand that the MBA thing has also been carried out online.
Yes.
However, for MTech, the entire master's program, I don't think it is offered purely online in India. You can have one subject which is floated by one of the IITs or maybe the IISc, and then you can take that subject up and earn some course credit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And yes, the online learning thing should be good, but the most important thing to understand is that the learning and the teaching, it should go side by side, and it should not be confined by any boundary. So what I do is that whatever I teach in my class, I feel that it should be publicly disseminated everywhere. So I have my own course website, and the PDF is free for downloading. If you want to learn from the PDF, if you find my PDF good, you are more than welcome to have that. So I try to keep an open door policy, and I believe that the same should be used everywhere.
Totally. Yeah. So that point that you mentioned, that toddlers should not be exposed to screens, blue screens. That's a
Yeah.
great point, because I have seen people or children getting addicted to mobile phones, and when it is snatched from them, they go for extreme steps. Some does suicide
Yeah.
and as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that is a quite sorry state of affairs. But as parents, the parents should be taking care of this. In fact, when we were growing up, we focused a lot of energy on the outside activities, like playing
yes,
cricket or getting injured in some weird ways possible. Like you fell down while walking the stairs. Normally, it doesn't happen. Suddenly, it happened because you were so excited or something. So I
yes,
believe this should be the case. But then again, the children, they look at their friends and see that, okay, that guy has a cell phone or something. Why can I not have that? So
hmm,
in that way,
yeah,
the parents should regulate their activity.
yes, yeah. So for students who are pursuing their B.Tech or masters, maybe, uh, what will you suggest for them, so that in future they become relevant in the industry as well as in the higher education sector as well?
There is one point which I'll strongly suggest is that solve as many problems as possible.
Mhm.
It can be numerical problems, it can be case studies, it can be a project estimate, it can be anything you like. It should have some effect on whatever you are studying. Not only your theoretical knowledge is enough, but you need to have the idea about what is going on in the world so that you are comfortable when you transition from a college or a university to an industry. Otherwise, it happens that the industry will take 6 months to train you, and then you are not comfortable enough with them. And then, touch wood, it happens not, you might be kicked out. So, in
Yes,
those cases, if you're not street smart, if you don't know how to go about with the things, then it will be a problem. So, solve as many problems as possible. You are all engineers, you should know how to apply. Rather than derive or learn, you should focus more on the application part of things. So this is one suggestion which I'll give to the B.Tech and the MTech student.
okay. So lastly, let's say, given a chance, right, you are given a time machine, you want to go back in time, and what will you suggest yourself, your younger self, in college or in masters or in
Okay.
PhD or maybe in primary education as well,
All
whichever
right. Primary
position you want
education.
to take?
No, I'd rather go back to the stage where I completed my B.Tech
Okay.
and then put some sense into that individual and say that please go for maybe for an MBA or something. Okay. Because if you are going for a PhD and postdoc line, the path is quite hard. And you need to have a strong, you need to have your gut so that you are well accustomed to the ups and downs of life. But what I'll suggest or rather advise is that uh, calm down. It's your life. And I know you are excited, and I know things might not look as bright as you want it to be, but things will happen. Things will eventually happen. Just give it some time. Time not only heals all wounds, but it also makes a gradual shift to maybe a better place. So it's not a steep slope, it's a gradual slope. So you need to just follow that line and then go about with it. So yes, after B.Tech, that would be a good time point to go back. Maybe 2015 April or something, just when we were about to finish our
Yes.
ensigns. Yes, so the 2015 April would be a good idea.
Okay. So before we wrap up, last one question. Like, what will you suggest to someone who is just coming out of college? Which line of career will be good for them? Is it higher education or jumping to an industry? Uh, Maybe you are already in education sector, so being impartial.
No,
Yeah.
I'll totally be impartial because we have talked about MBA for the last 5 minutes or something.
Yeah.
And see, first of all, the first question I'll ask that individual is, what is your interest?
Mhm.
Do your interests align with the industry? Do your interests lie in teaching or doing some research? Or are you a person who might shift to a research background from an industry or vice versa? You can have a career swap later as well. So what I'll suggest is that if you are looking for a career in the industry, you can go for an MBA. You can go for an MBA because an MTech will only get you as far as perhaps a B.Tech student and maybe 1 or 2 lakh more salary. And hiring an MTech actually is a loss for the industry because you can give the same amount of training to a B.Tech with a comparatively less salary.
Mhm.
So hiring an MTech doesn't actually make sense. An MTech is kind of an intermediate position where you are not a B.Tech and then you are not a Ph.D. and then you have to go for a Ph.D. because you cannot get rid of the MTech degree that you have. So if your interests lie in industry, you should go for an MBA. However, if you feel that you want to maybe work in an industry which talks about research or maybe work in academia, then you should definitely go for a PhD. That is the only way about it. And you should be quite good at it and try to acquire funds and then network with people and try to publish as many papers as you can. So that is the career path I'll be suggesting.
Great, great. So we're at the end of our discussion.
Yes.
Thank you for joining actually and taking out your time to attend this session with me.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I've seen all your videos that you have posted. I've seen a lot of my batchmates. You had that video for PhDs, and then you had the video for the defense as well. And I actually went through all of your videos, and I really like it.
Thank
And
you.
happy to be a part of it. And really glad to see you after so long.